So the argument I would make to you is I can show you how, when you take the personality of Trump out of it, you just look at the policy.
Destiny cannot do that. He just can't do that. He mentally cannot take the personality of Trump out of his mind and just look at it objectively.
Both what he enacted during his first term and the stuff that he talks about now is where most of those working class people are at. It's actually in that kind of moderate middle. He sounds a lot more like a Democrat from the 90s than he sounds like a Republican from the 2000s or than a Democrat from today sounds. But then also the Democrats who are working class want much less immigration. They're very worried about the transgender stuff and the woke stuff.
You would think what she just said is has to be false, right? There's a difference between online people that claim themselves Democrats and talking to people in real life that don't really pay attention to politics. I feel like the Democrats have only changed because of Trump. They wanted to be anti-Trump.
So the perspective I'm coming at this from is I wrote 2 books and both of them are kind of about the same thing, which is that the real divide in America is not actually right versus left. It's the class divide. It's about whether you have a college degree or not, and that a lot of factors go into, if you have that degree, you're much more likely to be able to achieve the American dream statistically, to be able to become a homeowner.
I admire Destiny's typing speed. He literally wasn't even looking. Well, actually, no. Maybe he was looking at what he was doing, but he typed that thing out so fast. I really need to upgrade my typing skills because I type, but not as fast, and I have to keep looking at the keyboard. He can just look at the screen and just type like this. There's lots of things that you need to learn about this dude and why Destiny is respected. He's just not respected in the political field right now.
To be able to retire in dignity, your children will be upwardly mobile. But if you're working class, the way you were for many years, it's much more challenging. I mean, you have a genius for something that's very obvious, but for a lot of people who are doing sort of average jobs that really only need to be done, pretty well, the American dream is increasingly out of reach. So for my second book, I traveled around the country for about a year interviewing working class people from Democrat, Republican, both background, all religious backgrounds, all racial backgrounds, all family, gender, whatever. And what I found was actually very little distinguished working class people who voted for Democrats and working class people who voted for Republicans. And I can tell you a little bit more if it's interesting, where they sort of, in general, sort of fall on the issues. There's a kind of weird consensus that's happened among people who don't have a college degree. The real polarization is between the elites on both sides. And I think a lot of the conservatives you're talking to are probably in that right-wing elite that does get a lot of money and power out of polarization. But when you talk to average Americans, their views on policy, whether they vote for Republicans or Democrats, are very similar. So they're quite, left/protectionist on economic stuff. So your average Trump voter would want something like, universal health care, tariffs,
I'm questioning the universal health care thing, but tariffs, yeah, makes sense because Trump put tariffs. So the average today Trump supporter would probably subscribe to that. But universal health care, I don't see. Well, she said specifically Trump supporter, so that probably includes at least 75% of the people that loved Bernie Sanders in 2016, and yeah. So maybe I can see it, but I've never heard that before, so I'm kind of skeptical.
They're not against government investment in people who are struggling. What they want really is an economy.
Okay, that's a true statement. They're not against people's investment. They just would rather investment go into other places first before they get to that part, to the social economic stuff. I can agree with that.
That supports their labor. But then also the Democrats who are working class want much less immigration. They're very worried about the transgender stuff and the woke stuff. So there's very little that sort of...
Actually, for me when I actually asked some people in real life, and I was surprised when you wouldn't typically think if you're only an online person and you only listen to the culture warrior stuff online, you would think what she just said is has to be false, right? Democrats not I thought they were supposed to support that type of stuff. But if you actually talk about, when you think about, there's a difference between online people that claim themselves Democrats and talking to people in real life that don't really pay attention to politics, but they still call themselves Democrats, which there's a lot more of them than the internet people that call themselves Democrats. Apparently the people that are disengaged but still call themselves Democrats, they actually do not like the whole what she said is true. But yeah, so there's validity to what she's saying. I'm just, that's
I
all,
like,
that's
after I
my
wrote
whole
the book,
point.
I was sort of joking, and I would, say like the first party that gets to, much more access to healthcare and much less immigration is going to get an immediate 60% of the vote, because most Democratic working class people and most Republican working class people are there. And it's not just my interviews. I mean, I interviewed hundreds of people, but it's the polling shows that. And so the argument I would make to you is I can show you how, when you take the personality of Trump out of it, you just look at the policy agenda and you go like
Destiny cannot do that. He just can't do that. He mentally cannot take the personality of Trump out of his mind and just look at it objectively. Like, he just can't. He's emotionally invested in this. Destiny is 100% emotionally invested in why you should not vote for Trump. You should vote for Kamala. Like, the whole reason Destiny is going to vote for Kamala is because Trump is bad. That's it. That's 90% of the reasoning behind why he does it. Like, and then he's like, some policies that are like would be a little bit better for why. Like, if it was purely a policy thing, and they took the characters, they took the persona and character away from like each candidate, like Destiny would pick Trump like 100% automatically. But like, he's just so emotionally invested in Trump being so bad because of his character. It just blinds him. It blinds him for why he's going to be voting for Kamala Harris instead of Trump, because he still hasn't given a reasoning to what's going to happen, for like how, like, he's going to say that she's destroying the country, and I'm like, how is her talking about this destroying the country? Like, how? That is, like, because she doesn't have the same opinion as you about Trump that you'd have about Trump. Like, that's literally what it goes down to.
Issue by issue, his policy, both what he enacted during his first term and the stuff that he talks about now, is where most of those working class people are at. It's actually in that kind of moderate middle. He sounds a lot more like a Democrat from the 90s than he sounds like a Republican from the 2000s, or then a Democrat from today sounds like a Democrat from the 90s. So we could go through that, but I think also, even at a larger level, I totally...
Yeah, the Democrats has definitely changed. But only because I feel like the Democrats have only changed because of Trump. Like, Trump is a symptom of another thing, but Democrats changing now was mostly because of how many, like, they wanted to be anti-Trump, and they became the anti-Trump party. Like, that's all their existence is right now. Like, when you think of a Democrat, like, what do you think of? Besides, like, what's the majority thing that you think people that are voting Democrat think? And you think anti-Trump. Like, there's like, you could say, oh, there's some economic things or some policies that you might like, but no one's talking about them. They're only talking about, like, the most prominent thing is that I am not Trump. That's why you should vote for me. I'm like, bro, that's not convincing. Come on now.
Respect and understand people who can't get past the character, who can't get past the, the shit talking, whatever. But I think even this question of whether you're casting your vote based on policy.
Yeah, Destiny can't. He can't get past that. So
I continue to be consistently impressed with your moral clarity. So I'm asking myself, how come I am not outraged at the level that he is, this person who I respect and admire, on this particular issue?
True.
And I think that the answer to that is more interesting than litigating, because I've seen you have this debate about January 6th so well, and people much better than me had this argument and this debate. I think that the more interesting question is why the people who are not so exercised about it are not so exercised about it. Is that not like do you not agree with that?
Not even remotely close. It is probably...
Yeah, he does not care about their point of view.
One of the most frustrating, like, gaslighting experiences I've ever had in my entire life is, and I think that this is like it's the ruin of this country,